Matt Bernier with the DRFBets Race of the Day for Friday, June the 28th. Race number 6 at Belmont Park. We're going 1.25 miles on the inner turf course. This is a non-winners of one other than for 3-year-olds and up. Before we dive into the field, I'd encourage you to head on over to bets.drf.com. Take a look at the latest and greatest as far as new sign-up offers are concerned or offers for existing DRF Bets members. You know the drill. Bets.drf.com is where you need to go. Let's take a look at the field that will go the 10 furlong distance over the inner turf on Friday at Belmont Park. You can find free formulator past performances over on the Race of the Day page on DRF.com. Download them, handicap along. I'll take the field right in post position order. We'll begin with the number 1, Extraordinary Jerry, going out for Todd Pletcher. Luis Saez scheduled to have the mount. Most recently, highest last out buyer in the field with an 86. That came in a 1-mile event, non-winners of one other than company. From a time form standpoint, he's right there. I'm a little bit skeptical about the added ground. Not that he's run poorly at shorter distances and suggesting maybe he can't go longer, but to date, I feel like there's a reason through 13 lifetime starts you haven't tried to stretch him out. He's run competitively at those sort of flat miles, mile and a 16th distances. I also find it a little bit interesting. His most recent win, he's only won twice from 13 starts. 2 starts back, that came in an off-the-turf race down at Gulfstream for state-bred Florida breds. Non-winners of one other than he beat 4 other horses. So it's not as though that most recent victory was anything spectacular. Okay, he ran into some good horses most recently. Opry finished second. Hobo was third. Extraordinary Jerry, just a horse in here that I don't know that he's got any tremendous edge. And I'm always anxious to be trying to beat horses that have the highest last out buyer in the field, especially if I'm not in love with them. Extraordinary Jerry, he'll be one that if he wins, I will lose. We won't go over the number 2, Shadow Rider, because he is a main track only. So we'll move on to the number 3, Crack Speed. And with Crack Speed, I think we have to start with the Timeform US Pace Projector because, as you can see, they have him out in front all by his lonesome, followed by the number 1 horse, Extraordinary Jerry. Crack Speed is a horse that has run twice here in the United States for Christophe Clement. He did some good things in Argentina prior to coming here. Did that all on dirt. Tried dirt in his stateside debut. Showed some big speed. Faded. They moved him over to the turf most recently off of a few-month layoff. He opened up by 11 lengths. Got run down. Looked like he was a bit of a tired horse at the end of the run, but you can understand when you go 47 flat and you are a country mile clear of everybody else in the field, that you're going to feel the effects of it at 1 mile and 3/8. Also have a positive formulator fact for Christophe Clement and the number 3 Crack Speed. Past 2 years, turf second after the layoff, route races at Belmont Park. 8 for 34, 18 in the money with a 245 ROI. Joel Rosario is scheduled to have the mount. Flavien Prat rode him in the most recent run. If you add Rosario to that formulator fact, that's the beautiful thing with DRF Formulator. You can filter things 15 different ways. You add Rosario to those numbers for Christophe Clement. 5 for 13, 10 in the money with a 405 ROI. With no other speed in this race, Rosario, when he is on, he is as good as any rider in the country or taking another step in the world. I think Crack Speed's really interesting in here as a potential gate-to-wire threat. Number 4 is Wrapped. Wrapped is a really neat New York bred. He just shows up and runs his race. He's got a number of speed figures on his page that figure to take some attention. Highest last out time form US rating in the field. Non-pace adjusted with a 111. Ran into some nice New York breds in that Kingston. The winner most recently, Gucci Factor. He won next out. He's the only horse that has exited that race to run back, but he came back and won with a 98 buyer speed figure. But you see some of the other names in there. Offering Plan, Therapist was 4th. Wrapped keeps good company no matter what races he runs in. The concern is he's not much of a winner. Let's just call a spade a spade. 3 for 21 lifetime and 11 times second or third. He's a really nice horse. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. He's a 6-year-old gelding now, a son of Hat Trick. To me, he's best used underneath, and that's what I'm going to be doing with a horse like this. Number 5. Militia Man. You always have to respect Chad Brown in any turf race in New York, any turf race anywhere for that matter. Irad Ortiz retains the mount on this 3-year-old son of Broken Val. Most recently, broke the maiden against older horses at Belmont on May the 9th, going 1.25 miles, so you know the distance isn't an issue for him. The 5th place finisher was a next out winner with a 74 buyer. That was No Man's Land, who's going to be breaking from the far outside here in this race on Friday. The concern for me with Militia Man, and this is usually something that I want to look for with turf horses in general, but especially with Chad's horses, I didn't think it was the most visually impressive effort I've ever seen. 3 horses across the wire. This was a horse that really was pushed along for a little while, rounding that far turn, finally got him out into the clear. I have written into my notes, blanket finish, and I thought he was sort of a grindy workman-like type. To me, with the pace that he had to run at that day, Timeform US has the internal splits all color-coded red. I don't know that Militia Man really has any sort of, well, he certainly doesn't have an edge going into this race, and I do wonder, just based on the connections, is he going to take more money than he necessarily should? I don't know that he really stacks up super favorably against this group, but when it's all said and done, it's Chad Brown, it's Arad Ortiz, it's Belmont, and it's Grass. Throw him out at your own risk. The 6 hierarchy goes out for Shug McGahee. He most recently finished third, second off the bench in an N1X. Crack Speed is the horse that he ran against that day, or one of the horses anyway. Crack Speed ran fourth after setting that big pace and tiring. Hierarchy, maybe he'll fit that mold of Shug, where the older they get, the better they get. But this is a 4-year-old son of point of entry that to date he's 1 of 8. He's settled for minor awards on 4 other occasions. I don't love his running style in a race that seems to be relatively paceless for the most part. He has some competitive figures. I think he's the kind of horse that maybe you want to consider underneath. But again, with the dynamics of the race, with what this horse has done throughout his career, I just don't see a lot that makes me love this horse as far as an on-top candidate. Underneath, certainly can understand that. But from a win end, he just doesn't really seem to do much for me. And we get to the far outside, the last horse in here, and that is No Man's Land. Javier retains the mount, or takes the mount, excuse me. Manny Franco had it last time. This is a horse that broke the maiden most recently against older horses. June the 8th, that was going 1.25 miles. No issue there. The problem is you've only had 2 horses exit that race to come back and run. Now, granted, they're the 6th and 9th place finishers, but neither of them really did much to acquit this horse in good order. They earned buyers of 59 and 62. At least this horse, I think, can be a little bit closer to the pace as we saw in that most recent run. There were some swift fractions early on and was still 2 or 3 lengths off of it, as opposed to some of these other horses that are probably going to be coming from 6, 7 out of it. And in a race where it doesn't seem like there's a lot of speed signed on, I think it'll be imperative to stay relatively close, unless you think Crack Speed just can't see out the distance, or maybe he just is one of those horses that shows speed and fades each and every time. But No Man's Land, the waters are going to get deeper here. Facing winners for the first time. And right now, he only has 1 race on his page, in my opinion. That's fast enough to win in a spot like this. No Man's Land is not for me. In the Friday DRFBets Race of the day, the 6th at Belmont. Where are we going to go? Let's take a look at my pick. I am going to go with the speed. Look, I think speed is dangerous no matter what surface you're on. And Crack Speed, to me, he is as loose as he wants. And I think it's an instance where if you can just get him to relax a little bit, maybe he doesn't open up by 11, but if he opens up by 3 or 4, maybe that's going to be enough. Second off the bench, you've got that positive formulator fact for Christophe Clement in your back pocket, and then you add in the Rosario factor. I think there's a lot to like about Crack Speed. I don't think he's going to be much of a price. I think a lot of people will look at him the same way that I am. But I think Crack Speed is the speed of the speed, and I expect him to go gate to wire. I went 3, 4, 6, and 5 in the 6th race at Belmont Park on Friday afternoon, your Friday DRFBets Race of the day. And again, as always, head on over to bets.drf.com. Take a look at the latest and greatest as far as deals and promotions are concerned, not only for new sign-up members, but for existing DRF Bets members. You know the drill. Bets.drf.com is the address where you can go to find all the details. Scheduled post time for the 6th at beautiful Belmont Park on Friday afternoon, 4:12 Eastern. Good luck.